Welcome, everyone, to Creative Leadership. I'm Jeremy Sirota, your host. This is now my fourth LinkedIn Live about the intersection of creativity and leadership, how we think about problems, how we solve them, and how we move industries forward. And today's guest has spent his entire career doing just that. He's finding creative solutions in places where people mostly see rules and constraints. Brando Rich, he's a web developer turned CEO, a Vermont native who's turned the ticketing industry upside down by asking one simple question: what if fans came first? Brando, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Glad to be here.
I'm really excited to have you. This is a space that I'm not as familiar with in the music industry. So I'm really excited to talk to you about it, how you got involved. You've really built CashorTrade from a side project, kind of born out of the Phish parking lot, into a platform serving nearly 1 million people across 46 countries. You've built what people are now calling the Airbnb of tickets. And you've done something a little bit radical. You cap prices at face value, and you're building community around generosity. And I'd like to start each show with a quote. This one today is from Reed Hastings. This is Netflix co-founder. He once said, "The best managers figure out how to get great outcomes by setting the appropriate context rather than by trying to control people." And you're leading this company that acts against people's immediate financial interests. You've built this countercultural startup to a serious mainstream business, and you seem to be building something that's challenging an entire industry's assumptions about how value should work. So let's just start off. When I read that quote from Reed, how does that resonate with you? Is that something that you think about or you built into what you're doing?
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Excited to dive into that. And this is a good intro to it.
Hmm.
Um, what do you want to do with your life? I would say something that's always motivated me was to create change and to build community and to sort of discover the passion that lies within. So I don't know, something about my brother and I that always found a stickiness amongst people,
Mm.
a like-mindedness, a relation amongst each other, a common goal. And we sort of found ourselves bringing people together to create communities. When I was a kid in high school, it was, maybe running like a environmental club, getting people to join together around a cause. I was a martial artist. I eventually ran a karate school with my brother and trained the youth to find their passions and to have self-discipline and to be driven. So there's a lot of teachings there that was very interesting, that motivated me. And the whole psychology of what comes on with the mental toughness and focus of martial arts became a way of life. It's not just a sport. It becomes a lifestyle that you live. And I think that shaped me in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
And I took that forward in my life. I got my teacher's licensure, taught high school for a moment. I really enjoyed like the teaching aspect of things. And in doing that, brought people together around their passions. In college, I was in the Northwest coast, was surrounded by very passionate people fighting for the environment, people doing lockdowns to protect old growth forests.
Mm.
I was involved in some of the anti and protests that occurred in the Battle of Seattle in 1999 that shut down the World Trade Organization meetings. And then I came back to the East, was the coordinator for the Vermont mobilization of global justice, trying to fight against the free trade area of the Americas. And all the while still teaching martial arts, and learned to become a web designer living in northern Vermont after my college career with my brother once again, starting a business. We were going to create an environmental business, but it was early 2000s. We knew that whatever it was going to be, the internet was the way. It became amazing to sit behind the keys and like change lives. And I think I learned that from some of the activism. It wasn't myself, but some people in the community were like dumpster diving computer parts and building computer stations out of pieces,
Yeah.
and would run up servers and would be able to create these websites to communicate out to the world about what was really going on behind the kind of hidden media, let's say. And I was like always amazed and taken by the fact that I always loved computers. And now that we were getting into the internet, this ability to publish to the world was unfound, unmatched. It was brand new, and the power behind it. I always loved databases, and I was just amazed how you could compile data and filter and query on it. And I was so taken back by the power of some simplified systems. And all that led to becoming a web designer, living in northern Vermont, living the good life, snowboarding as much as I could, you know, getting in the woods. Throughout all that, I started seeing live music. When I was 14, my brother and I ran away from home, and the Dead was playing in Boston, Massachusetts.
Was that your first show?
This was one of my first shows. I might have gone to Lollapalooza right before that, but this was my first moment to um, really get into the live music community.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I saw Phish in '93 at the UNH Fieldhouse. Excellent show. And then, yeah, that's what it was. And then there was Lollapalooza, and then there was the Dead in Boston.
So I'm pretty close to you. I was Peter Gabriel, then Lollapalooza, and Phish with Dave Matthews opening probably in 1991. Was it 92?
91. Okay,
91,
awesome.
92. Yeah.
Yeah, 92, they did a tour with Santana, I think. My sister went to that. I was still a little young, didn't quite get there till the next year. But yeah, we were rebellious at home. Ran away, slept under a bridge in Boston for a few nights, and hopped on Seeing the Dead. I was amazed by that community, and took that with us, and continued to see live music and follow Phish. A handful more Dead shows too, but then Phish throughout up until 2004, when they went on hiatus. And at that same time, Facebook was beginning, StubHub was beginning, Howard Stern was moving to Sirius XM, satellite radio, huge movement. StubHub had paid Howard Stern quite a bit of money. We were hearing him on those segments, about hearing the commercials about StubHub. Fast forward to 2009, 5 years had gone by. We go to buy tickets when Phish returns. Tickets are $2,000 online. People weren't really calling Ticketmaster to buy tickets anymore. They weren't really standing in line at box offices, waiting outside overnight. It was all online. And it became a smack in the face and a real presentation of how the industry had changed. And sure, there were brokers before. My first Phish show, I paid $50 for an $18 ticket, and it was from a broker, but this was at max, and it was Wild West. bot programs, price matching software, auto listing, moving massive amounts of tickets off of the primary to the secondary with the click of a button. And having grown up on tour and seeing these communities come together and support one another, real fans never paid above face value. And somehow they always got in. And there was this power of community that made it happen, where people worked together to support one another. And we were amazed by that, and decided that it would be amazing to have that kind of community and that like marketplace or scale of economy happen online instead of the predatory market that we're seeing. So we built CashorTrade in the end or fall or winter of 2008, after Phish announced their return. And we went on tour that summer, and we set up a tent in the parking lot, and we'd hang a bulletin board with Post-it notes, and people would come and it would say have on one side and want on the other. And they would say what they had or wanted and put an email or phone number, and they would come to the tent and meet up and have a safe place to exchange at face value only or below even. Sometimes there were miracle tickets. People would just give tickets away. We presented the app with the laptop on the table, and people would sign up, and we would head to Starbucks the next morning and build whatever we could using their Wi-Fi on the website, adding to the ideas that people told us from the night before. And back then it was just the two of us, so we were able to iterate like that.
By the way, that's crazy market research. That's the stuff product managers are out there at these large tech companies trying to understand what their users want. And you have this like almost like a bazaar that you've created of just this intimacy of being able to get immediate real-time feedback. It's kind of amazing.
It was fun. It was so fun, and people loved it. And I built websites for we had the web design firm for 17 years. Maybe it was like 12 years at the time before we started CashorTrade, but no one ever really like gave me a hug and thanked me for the website I built. CashorTrade, however, was a whole different vibe.
There's so many things to dig in there. The karate angle was something I was not expecting, though. I actually believe that some of the most innovative founders are ones who can merge two disparate worlds. This world of creativity, right? Sometimes it's just seeing something that others can't, and being very process driven. So you're in, it's been many, many years since I did martial arts. I think I was 14 last time I did it, but I just remember the discipline that it required. And so you've kind of merged these two worlds together. And I'm just wondering, did that just come naturally to you? Or is that a discipline you use to figure out how to merge those?
I think it did come naturally, but it's like almost how I was raised. I started martial arts when I was 6, lived it, breathed it. It was like every day. And then once we were running our own school, teaching it, like I've always loved that phrase, like you think you know something, teach it. And you find out you don't.
Yes.
And then it really challenges you to absolutely know what you're teaching. So, I was in the studio, or in the dojo, 6 days a week into the evenings, teaching adult classes after kids classes. It was very much a way of life, but also my parents are very driven. I was brought up to go after what you want. Somewhere along the way, despite challenges, especially with CashorTrade, running a ticket company is insane. there's this focus on like your life and your passions and how entrepreneurship is an interesting animal, right? It has challenges every day, and you have to really live and breathe that, and come in every day and ready to take another swing. So I think that there's a lot of parallels there, and
Mhm.
that's why I wanted to talk about some of that upbringing. I think.
I absolutely see that through line. My daughter is 13 now, and she's been fencing for 7 years. And her coaches constantly talk to her about the discipline, the commitment, the dedication that she's been going through now for 7 years. She started when she was 6, and how fundamental that's going to be in her life going forward. She both gets that and is also 13. But I know I can picture her 20 years from now because I was not a dedicated kid. I was a somewhat listless kid. And at some point, I turned the dial and I realized that maybe it comes naturally to other people. I have to be persistent. I have to be dedicated. I have to have a community of people around that support me, whether people to be sounding boards or mentors. And so I see what you've done, and I absolutely see that through line. What I'm curious about is how those attributes from earlier in life, you've scaled from the tent and the bulletin boards to nearly 1 million users. And at the same time, you've kept this very fan first culture that you had from the origins. And I'm very curious how you've kept this sort of intimate community and yet scaled into this very large operation. And have you needed to evolve your leadership, or were you really just pulling from what you've done in your past, or some combination of those?
Great question. I mean, leadership and teaching, that education never ends. It's a constant struggle, but internal look, right, at not only yourself, but the psychology of people and what drives them. Because being able to communicate and have an effect is not easy, and not everyone you talk to is the same. Different things drive different people. And it takes a minute to discover that in order to get something across or to have an impact. Back in the day, like, oh, like, sensei, my student has like ADD or whatever. I learned back in the day that like there's multiple intelligences. Everyone learns a little differently. And some people might get bored or lose focus in this area, but this seems to make them spark. So that in itself is like a constant challenge, right? Because you sort of have to take in and feel whoever it is you're communicating with and adjust as necessary to get some certain things across. Now, to do that on an online platform is difficult. A checkout flow or something, messaging from a product standpoint is always a difficult animal. But in building community and being a leader and being a teacher, you absolutely want to think about what drives people to be their better self. And I don't know that I'm good at that or not, but I do my best to have people be introspective. I've been introspective myself forever, always trying to like uncover why I might feel or act a certain way. And when you come in as an entrepreneur and you have the struggles, and to ask yourself if you're happy and are you getting what you want out of life, and what you could do to adjust so you are, those are important things. Life is short. Do what you love, you know? And does that, if you're challenged, does that mean that you don't love it? And maybe, but honestly, if you're not challenged, do you have worth? Like, and maybe that's the martial arts part, but I talk about that with my team. Like, challenge yourself, be
Mhm.
challenged, dig in, discover yourself, and overcome. and you will go home that day feeling successful. And to me, that's living. That's all I could hope for. Not every day will be that, but like most days are. And not just like being an entrepreneur or running a ticket company, but like working on the computer is like endless knowledge. Like there's very few days that I go home where I didn't learn something new. It could be that you right clicked over here and did that. But still, if you think about that, that stuff adds up.
I was just on a website. It's from one of the newsletters I've subscribed to, and it was just posting basically what are called dead websites, websites that haven't been updated in more than 5 years, that are just tumbleweeds out there. And you can just click and get a random one served to you, which I love. There's this game I have a friend who plays called Wikipedia Roulette. And you go to this website, it'll just serve you up a different Wikipedia page, something that you would never have otherwise clicked on to learn something new. And I love that idea because as we get older, there's less, we feel as if there's less new. But really, what's happening is we are losing our childlike wonderment of the world.
Mm.
And part of that is because we're on this almost this water slide where life's just taking us and we think we can't stop it. And I love what you just said about stopping and reflecting about what you're doing, being more self aware. Those all resonate with me and what I try to do with our company. I always like to say to my team, just take one step forward and then I can help you with the other nine. And that's because of exactly what you said. Everyone has a slightly different path, right? Everyone comes at it with different experiences, different talents, different understandings, and you kind of have to tailor it a little bit. And I've never been a teacher, but what you just said about teaching is very much akin to what a lot of leaders could probably learn from. It makes me now want to go teach a class to try to be a better leader in that way. But there's a lot there that's really interesting that I haven't thought about for leadership.
You never stop at learning how to communicate and be more effective as a leader and a teacher. It'll always surprise you, you know, and it does, I think it does take a lot of introspection because you're not just trying to discover someone else, but you're discovering. I mean, I love leadership. It's a good feeling. Maybe some days are more impactful than others. And it's interesting to be a leader and in a way that encourages others to be their best self and not try to be, telling them what to do or follow a particular path, but have them discover, have them figure out a process or a path to success. That's hard, right? I mean, not every day is perfect, but in running a company, but it's pretty powerful when you can have a team. And I'm blessed by my team. They're amazing people and they're here because of their passion. And they do that, I feel. And I hope I can help lead them in that way to discover what it is that they want out of their position, progress their professional growth, but also have like a good balance and so they go home feeling some success and worth of their day, that they did something great or progressed in some way. Life is short and it becomes boring to just kind of do the same old for your occupation. Like if you're not learning, if you're not growing, you're not overcoming, you're not accomplishing, like you could do that for a while, but you might be losing some of the spark.
I want to talk about that for a sec because you have a lot of elements that sometimes you have a lot of people out there say don't don't follow your passion into your job, and you're leading a company through people who show up for their passion. You're leading a company through this community driven fan first approach. At the same time, you're building a very process oriented company. You're scaling a company. And if I go back to this concept of being called the Airbnb of tickets, you're now leading a company which is really, if we go back to the tent days, this counterculture. I don't even know if you thought of it as a startup at first, but now to this, not just, I don't even want to call it a serious business, but a business that people depend upon. People look to you. You've done these massive Phish concerts, pushing a lot of tickets through CashorTrade. So how do you balance those two? Like, how do you, as a leader, try to reconcile really what we've talked about before, which is if we put passion and community in the same bucket as creativity, and then process and systems on the other side, so many people see these as irreconcilable. Are you bringing certain lessons in leadership? Like, clearly what you've done through the dojo, through teaching helps, but there's got to be other things that you're doing to merge all these disparate worlds.
The content area of ticketing is an awesome one. Obviously one that I've aligned with quite well, but it also like just without any work, has community. Doesn't have to be music, just events. And people like to do events with others. Like to go to a show or even if it's a sporting event or or even if it's like a cheerleading competition, like whatever kind of event, there's a community there and they become friends and they continue to reoccur. And so that is something that always, really synced with me in the leadership and the activism.
Mhm.
But that community building the movements. And I think once we saw the frictions from the secondary market and we saw what happened in these parking lots and how this economy came together that supported one another, we recognized that an online model could be very efficient in doing that. And hopefully this is kind of answering some of your questions of just how that kind of came together. But seeing the lack of trust in the ticketing industry, was a big eye opener, and recognizing the amount of trust in these parking lot communities was like two opposite ends of the spectrum. And we said, no, like this was back in the web 2.0 days where everyone was having an e-commerce platform, but wanted to really involve some personalization, some
Mhm.
socialness to it. And we recognized that there's an element of trust to give people a face and a profile and reviews to build on that trust component. So fans were trading with other fans, but largely became the moments to develop a platform that was anti-broker, because the broker and the scalping part of it was extracting from the value of what that community was set out to do. We're trying to pull people together and build community and build friendships.
Mhm.
Um, and over time, CashorTrade has become successful in doing that by connecting people over an event with the mechanism of ticketing, where they would become friends, even meet up at the shows, end up having drinks. Maybe they sat next to each other, become good friends. We have even heard of 5 different couples over the past 10 years have reached out to us who had met on CashorTrade and then started trading tickets, seeing each other at shows, and eventually started dating and later got married. So it's had a massive impact on people's lives. And that absolutely fills us and our hearts
Mm.
with what it is we do. And again, getting back to the power of the keys, the fact that like we could sit down on a computer, write some code
Mm.
that creates a feature that pulls people together to make the ticketing experience friendly and not frustrating or upsetting, which is very difficult to do. Those of you who are listening, I wish there were tickets for all of you for every night. But having reduced inventory, some people are always not going to be able to score when an event is sold out. And that's very hard because all we want to do is hook everyone up. So we try to create the best systems to get as many people in the door as we can. And then when they're standing there and their favorite artist plays a certain note or melody that hits them, and we were able to get them there without being ripped off, it spawns an old memory. Like music brings memories. It touches the soul. It makes them reflect, makes them think about their lives and the choices they've made and maybe the fights they've had or why they said what they said. And it brings out emotions, and it makes their hair stand up on their arms or gives people goosebumps. And this is like a real life human experience that people are feeling. And it was possible because of this, because the people in the community came together to make it happen. Like CashorTrade might be this thing, a code project, a platform, but those people make it what it is and they contribute. So when people are like, thank you, Brando, for building CashorTrade, I'm like, thank you for participating in it. Like, you have made this person's night, not me. I know I'm just kind of talking here, but it's been amazing. And keeping tickets at face value and partnering with artists, festivals, events directly, venues, and now integrating with primary ticket companies so we could automatically move tickets and transfer them in app, but protect and maintain the tickets at face value in the UI is where we're headed. And we have partnerships with Mumford and Sons right now, Billy Strings. We partnered with Tyler Childers and Sylvan Esso, and They Might Be Giants and The Cure, as well as many festivals like Floyd Fest and Summer Camp Music Fest back in the day, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now we're starting to work directly with venues in the same way. What became this project for fans, the industry is now saying, hey, the secondary market has always extracted funds from the ecosystem. These people in a basement who have nothing to do with the event, who are taking no risk, are not only causing friction on the event and the promoters and the box offices and the fans, but they're taking all the money out. And at some point over the past 5 years, what nobody ever thought would ever be anything, the face value movement, is now at the forefront of the industry. And CashorTrade is leading the face value movement. We're the founders, and we're taking it to Congress through the Fix the Ticks organization with the Tickets Act and the Fans First Act, multiple legislations being passed in states across the nation, and partnering directly with these artists and festivals and events. You know, events don't want to offer refunds. So now they can give their fans a place to go to sell their tickets when they can't go. And in turn, it cuts chargeback, and it's filling the empty seats.
It's good for business.
It's good for business. It's customer lifetime value. Those customers get to reoccur. They're taken care of. You want them to return. You want them to have some money in their pockets left to buy a beer and have their ticket scan at the gate.
Your philosophy, it kind of goes back to the very classic ad age days of delight your customers. Right? You're delighting your customers, and they're part of that experience. So they feel a part of it, which is really it's a really interesting approach. Resonates a lot with me running Merlin. and we're a member owned organization. So there's a lot of where clearly we're doing our role on their behalf, but we're trying to bring them in and build community, make them feel more a part of what our organization is. There's some interesting challenges on that, which is yes, you have this community. Yes, they're a part of it. And I want to keep coming back to the scale question because I was looking at what you did in Madison Square Garden, a very large venue in New York City, and you were pushing a lot of tickets through that for Phish. And while there is obviously passion and people show up and are satisfied, I love that word satisfied more than happy. I use joy a lot. There's also a lot of pressure from that. And I'm just curious how you help from a leadership perspective to manage people through that pressure. They're going to feel it leading up to events. They're going to feel it through the event. Do you have ways that you help? Is you have clearly a very calm demeanor, which is incredibly powerful as a leader. Is that one of your superpowers? What is it that you're doing that's helping your team?
Good question. It's I don't know. Maybe it's some desensitizing over the years, but I mean the ticketing industry is a wild industry. It's just like things are changing constantly. Every day there's some kind of friction point that needs to be smooth. And like, yeah, a canceled event, and you have to process like hundreds of thousands of dollars in refunds and trying to keep everyone happy. It's wild. So I never knew what I was getting into. Getting upset and getting agitated or irritated loses the focus. And I want to be successful. So I think I try to keep a level head with my team and motivate them to solve problems. And the more frustrated or annoyed or angry we are, the less effective you become. The less, it's just like in martial arts, like if the more upset you become, the less strategic you are. You're not thinking clearly. Don't let him get you mad. Don't let him get under your skin. Stay focused. And I think that is something that I try to portray or get across with my team. And some days we have some rough moments where it's just like, whoa, what is going on here? But okay, let's take a deep breath. Let's like pull our heads together. We can do anything. We can do anything. We just need to put our heads together to come up with the right process to solve it.
Love that advice. All right. With the couple minutes we have left, I have just two questions left for you. We're going to do a little bit of the pay it forward question. So if there is, you're teaching a course to kind of late stage high school students, early college career students, people who want to change systems, right? What effectively you're doing, not just optimize, but change things. Do you have a piece of advice that you would give to them, to those who are seeking to do that?
Find the friction point and experience them firsthand.
Hmm.
Don't just necessarily ask others, but put yourself through the pain.
Yeah.
And start to develop processes or ideas that may reduce the friction, and ask how it makes you feel inside. Is this something that you enjoy doing? And what's the impact that you may have in doing it?
Love that. All right. My new favorite question I like to ask, the only question I give guests in advance, so you're not on the spot about this, which is now that people have gotten an opportunity to learn a little bit more about you, if they don't know about you or the industry, describe yourself in 6 words.
Um,
What did you come up with?
Build movements, discover yourself, create change.
Love it. Can you tell me, for people who want to work with you, connect with you, buy tickets from you, where's the best place they can find you, learn more about yourself or CashorTrade?
You can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Brando Rich. Feel free to connect with me. I love meeting people in the industry and beyond. I love building networks, clearly. But also visit CashorTrade.org. Become part of the community. Create a profile, upload a photo, start interacting, create an alert for an event that you want to go see. Or if you ever have extra tickets to an event that you can't go, feel free to post them up there and sell them for what you paid. And you will make some people's day. Absolutely.
Brando, thanks so much for being here today and joining us on Creative Leadership. And thanks for everyone for watching. See you next time.